Hi, everybody, and welcome to Aromatherapy and Herbs for Mental Health. My name is Jennifer Hochel-Pressimone, and I'm a holistic aromatherapist and herbalist. I've also authored a few aromatherapy-focused books. I educate people around the world as well as with my GenSense Aromatherapy Institute. And then I'm also an essential oil formulator. So I've been doing this for about 13 years and have learned quite a bit about the plants and about herbs and aromatherapy and how it can affect our bodies mentally, physically, emotionally. And so I really felt passionate about sharing what I know with you guys about various aromatherapy and herbs for mental health, for holistic mind, body, and soul wellness.
Huh?
I hear that somebody just joined us, so if you want to go ahead and mute yourself.
I'm on a conference call here.
Hey there, I can hear that you've joined in. If you want to go ahead and mute yourself. There we go. So I'm just introducing myself, so we're going to go ahead and move forward. I do have a company called GenSense Inc. I was introduced to aromatherapy, like I said, many years ago and had a lot of health issues. I had Crohn's, IBS, colitis, irritable bowel, and so I was in a very weakened state. That was coupled with just a very weak immune system, a lot of hormone issues, headaches. And what I didn't know at the time is that there was depression and anxiety that came along with that. And since then, I've learned a lot for myself, but also in helping other people and helping my clients. With GenSense, we produce many different products. We manufacture our own products. We do a lot of custom blending. And like I said, we have an institute. So if you want to learn more about aromatherapy and get certified, become a certified holistic aromatherapy, I encourage you to check out gensenseinstitute.com. So let's focus on our topic for tonight, and let's start with aromatherapy for mental health. There is so many issues that trouble our society, our communities across the entire planet, not just in America, but in every country. And it's really a huge issue, and it's sometimes a silent issue. There are many people, over 1.5 billion people have been diagnosed with anxiety. But how many people have anxiety or have depression that have not really been officially diagnosed? I think, we have a lot going on. We have a lot of stresses on ourselves from an emotional and a mental standpoint, and we put these pressures on our body. We don't eat as right, so then we have physical changes within our body. We know that our gut, we have serotonin in our gut that makes its way to the brain that allows us to think rationally and be happy. And when our body is not working at its best, we can't think properly. We don't feel properly. We're not as rational. And so mental health, I'm finding, in the paper almost every day, when you're online, if you're on Facebook, little messages pop up. So I really am excited that you've decided to join us tonight and really, learn a little bit about what can you do for yourself, but also how do you recognize that in maybe family members and clients, and how do you help others? And what are the tools that we have within our reach to help others? So talking about mental health used to be a secret. You never talked about it. Oh my gosh, you go to a therapist, you go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It was kind of shamed upon. And now we're finding it's very crucial in our own healing process to be able to work through the issues. No matter who I talk to, somebody always has a backstory. You never know what somebody else is going through if you've never walked in their shoes. We react differently, we respond differently, and some people put on a happy face and they hide it, and some people wear everything on their sleeve and you know everything that's going on and you feel everything that they feel every moment of the day. Everybody's different, and we need to try to stop stuffing everybody in a box and making it look pretty with this little bow on it, because we all have issues and we want to be okay and work through those issues in our own time. And this is something that, we are starting to talk a lot more about. There's a lot more dialogue, especially I think with a lot of people in Hollywood that we've lost over the past couple years, really bringing a platform to talk about suicide and depression and anxiety and debility. And it really affects everybody, kids, adults, even pets. So, health today, we're taking more personal control. I think a lot more people want to be in tune with what they're choosing to put in their bodies, whether it's food or herbs. They're being more careful in the aromatherapy that they're choosing, because we really do see health and wellness and aromatherapy becoming a part of our everyday lives. So I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tools and recipes and resources to be able to take what you know now and add to that foundation, and to be able to carry forward, and for you to be empowered to make the right decisions for what's important for you and for your family. So let's talk about the mood gut connection. We have a lot of different mental things that go on in our body, whether it's concentration and focus and making decisions, learning, memory, recall. We have a lot of different emotions that we're faced with, from anger, grief, guilt, worry, fear, and so really we have our brain that is that facilitates every action that we do, every stimuli that we come engagement with, but it's the gut that makes things happen. And there used to be science out there that called the gut the second brain. And now you're seeing a lot more research calling the gut the second first brain, because our brains in our head do certain things and causes reactions and movements and processes in our body, but it's the gut that makes our body take that action. So you hear a lot, I'm thinking with my head, I'm thinking too much, or I feel too much, or I have to go with my gut instinct. I always try to find a way to make my head and my heart and my gut in alignment, so I feel comfortable with decisions. I feel comfortable in working through, whatever physical, mental, and emotional problems that might be, at hand for you. So when talking about the mood and the gut, there is a lot of scientific research studies available to you today that wasn't there maybe 10 years ago. And if you go to www.pubmed.com, you can type in aromatherapy, you can type in mood, you can type in gut, you can type in depression, you can type in a keyword, and there's a lot of studies from now, and past studies and current studies that are going on. So if you're a science buff and you really want more scientific research, that's a good reference for you. And like I said earlier, over 1.5 billion Americans are battling some type of mood issue, mental emotional issue every day. And that's just the ones that talk about it. But there's so many people that keep that silent. So we want to talk about mood, we want to talk about behavior and functions and dysfunctions. We want to talk about what's right and what things that we're doing that are right, so we can continue that. But we also want to look at maybe what we could do better, maybe some things that aren't quite right, or not functioning at an optimal level that we want to do right. And I talk about both because so many times we want to fix what's broken, but we forget to focus on what's right. Well, I do have energy, and I am thinking clearly, and I do have a great memory. Well, wonderful. Let's maintain that. We want to do a balance of maintaining what is healthy within your realm and what is not, so we can have a nice balance there. But within mood and behavior, we want to talk about depression, somebody being sad, somebody not being able to leave their house, somebody that just is down, they feel helpless and hopeless, and maybe they're grieving and that's what's causing the depression, or maybe they've been put down, or maybe they've been abused in their lifetime, and they just don't feel that they have the tools to function and to have confidence and self-esteem to function at a level that they need to. And so that happens on a mental and emotional level. But physically, with depression, our gut is not in a good state. I know a lot of people with gut issues. And when I say gut, I'm talking about digestion and intestinal system particularly. Keep in mind your immune system is within your digestive system. It's in your gut. 80% of your immune system occurs in your gut. So now we have the digestive system, the intestinal system, and the immune system that are not happy. And when you're not eating the right foods and you're not getting enough sleep and you are reacting in a negative way to the stresses around you and you're not eliminating properly and you're not drinking enough water, there's a lot of havoc that might be going on in the digestive system, not allowing the right neurotransmitters to get where they need to go, not allowing the right messages to be sent and received, not allowing the nutrients that we need to get from our food to be absorbed and go to work for us. Not letting our adrenaline be at a balance, not letting the serotonin do its job to allow us to be happy. And we have anxiety, so when we're operating in this state of imbalance, blood sugar is an indicator that things are not functioning so happy, and then the body starts wigging out and we see some nervous system stuff, we see some trembles, we see some shaking, we see anxiety. So anxiety I usually relate back to pancreas and blood sugar. Same thing with panic attacks, obsessive, compulsive types of things, nervousness, post-traumatic stress. And, we're seeing post-traumatic stress in the workplace, in the home, from our childhood, from witnessing, a traumatic event in our soldiers. So we really want to start paying attention to, everybody is going to endure some type of stress in their life, but it's our reaction to it. It's the tools that we have equipped ourselves with, or that we are equipped with, to handle the stress, so that our reaction to stress, one person may lose something and just get all bent out of shape and flip out, and another person may go, well, it'll turn up one day. So there's two different reactions to a situation. So you want to think about, how do you react? How do you respond to certain stimuli? And if you don't know, ask the people around you, because I'm sure they'll be very honest. So there's stress, there's fear, all kinds of fear. Fear of failure, fear of moving forward, fear of losing loved ones. There's all kinds of different fear. Anger, anger we hold in our liver. So for somebody, chronically angry and irritable all the time, we want to look and nourish the liver. For somebody in a chronic state of fear, we want to nourish the kidneys. With chronic blood sugar, and you want to notice, are you becoming bitter and resentful towards things? Have you lost the sweetness in life? That's pancreas. Grief we hold in the lungs. Knowing these things can help you assess yourself and decide on the right remedies and the right essential oils that are going to help. With children and with adults, we see ADD, ADHD, we see focus and concentration, problem solving. Problem solving is huge, especially with our children, because these are the future leaders of our country. We want to be equipped whenever a situation comes up or a stressful event comes up, that we have the tools that we need to solve that problem. That's going to determine our ability to have a reaction and a response. And the nutrients are very important for our brain to function and our gut to function. And our gut is the root of all diseases, and that has been scientifically published and scientifically proven. Inflammation in the gut particularly. So it's not rocket science. It's not a huge secret as to what is that magical pill or that magical formula for proper mental health and proper physical and emotional health. We just have to equip ourselves to be able to handle the stresses. We have to be able to allow nutrients to come into the body and take out that trash. And that's what's going to help us function at the best level that we can. And just, as we get older, our bodies, it does get older. So as, over 40, we don't produce as much hydrochloric acid. There's changes and things that happen. Hormones, become different. Collagen and elasticity of skin become different. But did you know every 7 years your body can rebuild itself? as long as it has the tools it needs to. So whatever tools you have right now is what your body's rebuilding on. And maybe you're deficient in the food category, or an emotional support category, so aromatherapy might be helpful, or you're deficient in certain vitamins and nutrients. We want to look at what can you be doing better in your life. And it doesn't mean you have to do a complete overhaul overnight, but you pick one thing and you work on that. So for now, I want you to take an emotional health assessment. So are you irritable? Are you angry, and do you get frustrated easy? And or do you feel sad? Do you feel defeated at times, like oppressed or suppressed? You're not able to do what you want to do. You do what's expected of you because it's dutiful. Or you feel put down. It's never good enough. You feel unworthy. You feel defeated. Depression, gloomy, weepy, unmotivated. Do you feel any grief, guilt, rejection, abandoned, loss of control? If you don't get something under control, you're just going to completely lose it. Do you have a lot of racing thoughts and mental clutter? Do you get jittery or nervous and anxious? Or do you just get completely wiped out and exhausted? Are you moody? Do you get overwhelmed often? Or you have a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality? Or are you happy when you wake up in the morning? It's like, man, this is a great day. And you stretch your arms and you wake up and you're just full of sunshine and like, wow, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm happy, I'm great, I'm joyful. I can laugh. Something comes up, I just let it roll off my shoulder, not because I'm hiding it, but because, I'm good today. So you want to take an emotional health assessment of where you are, because I always encourage you when you're learning anything, or maybe all of this and this is just a friendly reminder to you, you want to be able to apply it to yourself, because you're able to help others when you have a personal connection with that, or a personal testimony, or a personal story to share with somebody. For me, I've had digestive issues, I've had intestinal issues, immune issues, liver issues. I've experienced these emotions that I just said at some point in my life, and sometimes they've overtaken me. And so I'm going to share with you the things that I've done to conquer them and to allow me to function at the best I can be today. Tomorrow may be different, but then I'll deal with tomorrow. I need to be here and now in this moment. I think we worry so much about the future and tomorrow, and even, okay, gosh, this happened yesterday. Well, if it happened yesterday, it happened yesterday. What's going on in your life right now? Because that's what you can control. That's where you can make a difference. So if we look at a natural approach, which is really an ancient approach, these are things that have gone on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's not new. But we can naturally support our bodies with herbal supplementation and aromatherapy. So those are tools that we have. We can choose the right food and hydrate ourselves with water and minerals on a daily basis that's right for our body weight. We can make sure that we're getting enough sleep and we're having a good sleep. We can do some stress management treatments like massage and craniosacral and acupuncture and meditation, going to a support group, hanging out with friends, going out in the garden, having a hobby, doing something that you have for fun, something that puts a smile on your face. And you want to be able to move or exercise. I know a lot of people don't like the word exercise, so movement. So you don't necessarily have to go to a boot camp or a CrossFit. You can just get out and move, walk around your house, walk around the block, do stretches, do something that creates movement so that you're not being sedentary in a physical way and a mental way. We want mental movement, whether you do crossword puzzles or word searches or something that stimulates your mind, learning something new, doing Tai Chi. So all of these, these are tools that you have in your toolbox. So maybe you pick one and you work with one and you make that a healthy habit. You don't want to do a complete overhaul and turn it into a new toy where you do it for 2 to 3 days and then it's boring, it's old, you can't do it. What your goal is to create healthy habits so that you don't have to think about it and it just becomes your way of life. With aromatherapy, you have over 9,000 years of history. Our Greeks and Romans have a ton of history that they did, that they used it to win battles and to accomplish victories, to feel better. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic, our Egyptians, when they opened King Tut's tomb in 1922, not that long ago, from way back when, it still smelled and exuded the sense of frankincense and rosewood. So aromatherapy can be very powerful, and we use it in a lot of different modalities. Our ancestors used it in different ways, and so now we're able to use the distilled oils that, the Persians were the first to distill the oils. And so now we have distilleries, and now we have this beautiful thing called essential oils that we have at our fingertips. During World War II, they used lemon, clove, and thyme to disinfect the hospitals. Something we see on the news all the time, the hospitals, something's going on, whether it's C. diff or MRSA or infections or bacteria or whatever's going on. There's a lot of essential oils that we'll talk about that have antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial properties. That is a tool. It's not a cure-all, be-all, end-all, but it is a tool that you have to enhance your body's ability to fight off foreign invaders and to strengthen your immune system. During the plague, 1/3 of the population was killed. The people that didn't die were those that worked in the lavender fields and in the perfumeries and glove makers, because they were around essential oils. Hippocrates, real famous for, telling us we should have an aromatic bath every day. We should nourish our bodies and our soul and cleanse all of the worries and watch it go down the drain. So maybe it's not feasible for you to have a bath every day, but if you shower, then you can still let the water rush over you and still use your aromatherapy in a bath gel or in a soap, or in a salt scrub. And let that enhance your body from a mental, physical, and emotional standpoint and wash those worries away. You have over 8 Nobel Prizes in aromatherapy. There's a lot of science there. Now, when we're talking about aromatherapy and we're talking about essential oils and we're talking about herbs, I'm a very big advocate for quality. And there's a lot of studies out, and there were studies done years ago, and they've resurfaced and they've been redone again and come up with the same results, that a lot of the herbal companies out there are not meeting label claims. So what that means is on that label, it's telling you it has a certain amount or a certain percentage or certain milligrams of a certain herb or a combination of herbs. But over 80% of what's in the marketplace is not meeting that label claim. And on top of that, they're finding that there are fillers in there such as dirt and sand. So you do get what you pay for, and when you do a high quality, you can be assured that you're getting a good, pure herb or essential oil, that it's going to be potent. And potency is important because I know a lot of people, a lot of my clients complain, I don't want to be taking a ton of pills. Well, then let's get the job done. Let's get what your body needs. Let's nourish your body. Let's build up the reserves and get the body what it needs so it can function as best as it can on its own. And in order to do that, you want a good, pure, potent product, because that's where you're going to get your results. An example I do a lot with Soul Naturals, because they really are a true mental health company. They're very particular about sourcing their materials, which is something you should be familiar with. They're very strict on the testing of that to make sure it has the highest constituents in there, so we are going to get the results that we're looking for. But they do a lot of science behind their products, as do other companies, to show that, okay, this really does have a benefit. Soul in particular, and the reason I chose to spotlight them during this particular webinar is because we're talking about mental health. And they do have mental health counselors on staff. They have a psychologist who's taught at Harvard and Yale, and we have some of the top studies showing, okay, well, if we are going to nourish our gut and we are going to have a probiotic that's going to nourish our gut, we need there to be a component that also facilitates communication, the brain and the gut, to and from. And I personally formulated the essential oil blends that they carry with that in mind. So when I formulated, I wanted to know, okay, if I'm formulating this particular blend, I want it to work on physical, mental, emotional, nutritional, environmental. I put in 65 different components that I cross-reference because I want it to be as thorough as possible, because it's going to work on all that simultaneously. So if you're having kidney problems, I probably know there's some fear going on, so I want to work on the fear as an emotion. Fear causes us to maybe be depressed or anxious, so from a mental standpoint, and then urinary infections and so forth. From a physical standpoint, why not? We multitask in society. Why not have products that multitask for us? And so you really want to find something that's for you, that helps with your mental health, and you want something that's going to give you a particular quality and a quality commitment. So try these products. If you don't do well, here's your money back. You know, you want to work with people that are committed to giving you the best. Safety. When we're talking about essential oils, even herbs, you want to make sure that you keep them out of the reach of kids, because kids are curious. They'll take anything. They'll drink anything. You know, a lot of the children that have accidents at home do so in the afternoon when they get home, because they're drinking Windex because they thought it was, you know, blue Kool-Aid. You know, you see a lot of different issues like that. So we want to just be mindful. We want to be safe. You want to keep them out of the reach of your pets so they don't lick them all up. And the elderly, especially those with dementia. It's just being responsible. You want to read about remedies. You want to read about their benefits and their contraindications before you choose. I'm going to be sharing some information with you for things that I have done that work for me and that have worked for my clients. But I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not prescribing. I'm not a doctor, so I don't diagnose or prescribe or cure anything. I'm empowering you with knowledge so you can choose the right things for you, so you can select, okay, I understand this. Nobody knows your body better than you. Nobody knows your mind and your mental state and your emotional state better than you. So you want to be mindful, and you want to do your due diligence and go, okay, if I have this going on, or if I'm taking these prescriptions, I want to do some natural remedies. Let me learn about them so I'm making sure I'm choosing the right thing, because you are responsible for your health. So I encourage you just to read about those. There's lots of resources to do that. With your essential oils, you want to dilute them in a carrier before you apply them topically. I know there's a lot of different schools of thought on here. So lavender is a safe oil that you can use topically on the skin without a carrier at times. But what you want to understand is that our bodies operate, when you understand the anatomy and physiology and the lymphatic system and the blood system, and you understand there's receptor sites underneath our skin, you don't want to use these undiluted essential oils. They're fat soluble, not water soluble. And they need to be carried in a fat soluble carrier, such as almond oil, olive oil, you know, hemp oil. You've got a lot of different carriers, sea salts, glycerin, things like that, honey. So you want to mix them up, and then you can apply them topically in a lotion or spray around you. You know, you can put them in a roll-on so you have a perfume now. So I'm a big advocate to dilute them in a carrier first. If I get a mosquito bite, yeah, I'm going to grab some lavender and put it on the mosquito bite, but I'm not going to put lavender directly on my skin every single day in the same exact spot. It's just understanding the anatomy and physiology and being responsible. Your citrus oils are what we call photosensitive. What that means is it may cause skin pigmentation when you're exposed to the sun. So if you put bergamot or lemon and you drop some on your hand and you hang your hand out the window when you're driving for a few hours, you eventually may get some pigmentation, especially if you do that all the time. If you were to splash any in your eyes, remember they're fat soluble, not water soluble. So you want to flush that out with some almond milk. And I always recommend, because I am not a doctor, that if you do have serious health issues, you do want to discuss this with your medical professional, whoever's guiding you. You want to be able to have an open conversation. And a lot of doctors, medical doctors, are becoming more open to aromatherapy. You know, you have less of interactions and reactions with aromatherapy, especially if you're on prescriptions, than you do with herbs. You know, you still have to look at your contraindications. Cinnamon, for example, you don't want to do if you're on blood thinners. Rosemary, you want to avoid if you have, you know, high blood pressure, things like that. We just want to be careful. Seizures, epilepsy, there's certain oils you want to avoid. So let's understand how aromatherapy and herbs work in our body, because this is so important when you are looking to balance yourself from a mental, really getting some good, well-rounded mental health nourishment. I love aromatherapy because it's instant. It's so instant. And I use this example often because everybody has had this experience at one time or another, but how many people have smelled bad milk? I see you guys shaking your heads, you know, raising your hand. How did that smell? Really bad. And how quickly did you know it was bad? Instant. And how did that make you feel? Yucky. And it made you feel that way quicker than instant. That's a form of aromatherapy. So just imagine we have these beautiful scents that you really like, that now you have as a hand sanitizer or a body spray or a deodorant or a perfume, you know, or a lotion or shampoo. Now you're nourishing your body with something pleasant that's actually going to have a good benefit for you. It's not only smelling good, but they have therapeutic properties that can provide you with, you know, it's cinnamon, for example, you know, is great for viruses and stop the spread of infection, boost the immune system. So does lemon. It's a purifier. So when we're using those, we're getting a physical, mental, and emotional benefit out of there. When you're using chemical-based, you know, like down the Bath and Body aisles and, you know, fragrance oils, those may smell good to you, but because there is a lot of chemical molecules that make up that, it's adulterated, it's lab made and man made, it's not going to decongest your lymphatic system. It's actually going to congest that. And think about, if you use perfume, for example, where do you apply your perfume? You apply it on your neck, right where your thyroid is, right where your lymphatic system drains. So if you're putting a perfume on, you are saturating your thyroid and lymphatic system with 10, 20, 30,000 chemicals in an instant. And that really is going to have an effect, because when lymphatic system gets congested, we don't think clearly. We don't make the best decisions. We have a harder time with memory recall. We have a harder time fighting depression and anxiety and stress. So your aromatherapy, your essential oils are the liquid part of the plant. It's the liquid life out of the plant. Your nose is an external brain, so when you take a scent and you smell, your sense of smell teaches you how to taste, but it also tells your body how to respond to a situation. So your nose is your external brain. You breathe in an oil, it hits that part of your brain that tells you how to respond to a situation. This is the only sense that you have that actually does not have to go through the spinal cord or digestive tract to be processed. It's very instant. And the liquid part of inside of a plant, its job for the plant is to protect it from injury, to drive nutrients into the cell, and to repel and attract certain insects, certain pests. So comparing that to our human bodies, essential oils can help us protect us from injury, physical, mental, emotional. It can help drive nutrients into the cell. And I always teach that aromatherapy or essential oils are actually CPR for the cells. Our cells should be living at least 120 days, and if they're dying off because they're oxidizing, or because we're under so much stress, or we're eating too much sugar, or we're not nourishing ourselves and they start dying off, that's when our immune system becomes compromised. So essential oils are CPR for the cells, as is enzymes. It can help revive that and help our bodies work better for us. With herbal supplements, you know, the response is going to vary. Same thing with essential oils. There's some oils that are going to be relaxing. There's some that's going to be nourishing. There's some that's going to be stimulating. Lavender typically is known to produce a calming and relaxing effect. Peppermint is very stimulating. It gets our mind going. It gets our creative juices flowing. But our supplements also provide nutrients to our organs, our cells, all of our systems that we're not getting from our normal food supply because the soil's been depleted. So oftentimes we're finding in today's society we are having to supplement with some herbs to give our body that extra, those things that are missing. So the benefits, we've been talking about physical. It's going to help with our body system functions, intestines, digestion, our skin, our hair, our nails, our bones, our urinary system, our breathing, circulation in our body, our muscles, our joints. Mentally, it's going to help with our cognitive functions, anxiety, depression, addictions, behavior, ADD, ADHD, post-traumatic stress, moodiness, and emotions, if there's sadness, grief, guilt, anger, worry, but also joy. If you do have a lot of joy, let's keep it there. And if you need some, then let's give you some inspiration to do that. So I'm going to give you some solutions. I'm going to give you 4 categories of solutions that you have at your fingertips for mood and anxiety and depression and overall mental health. So we're going to talk aromatherapy. We're going to talk about things to support the gut. We're going to talk about things to support stress management and the importance that minerals play, especially when it comes to our mind. So the first oil that I want to introduce you to is lavender. I think lavender is probably the most researched essential oil, followed by tea tree. But lavender is, the one word that comes to mind when I think of lavender is harmony. Perfect harmony. It brings things into balance. It's also antibacterial, antiviral, antiseptic, antidepressant. It's going to relax the body, so if there's nervousness, shakiness, tremors, anything like that, muscle spasms, twitches, it's a nerve tonic. It also has been scientifically shown to enhance the alpha waves in our brain. This is important when you think of dementia and Alzheimer's because we want people to stay in the moment longer. We need good cognition and learning ability and memory ability. And not just as a reactive, but may you never know the disease you prevent. May you never know the disease you prevent because you've nourished your body as best as you could. You've filled your toolbox with as many tools as you can, so when you're faced with something, you have a tool for that. Lavender also helps with stress, apprehension, fear, anxiety. Great for neuralgia, neuropathy type of things, insomnia, so you have trouble sleeping. You should be in bed by 10 o'clock because your second adrenaline kicks in at 11. And at 11 o'clock through the morning time, all night long, your body is doing maintenance on your detoxifying organs. So it starts with gallbladder because gallbladder needs to produce all of these tools for the liver to be able to break everything down into a form that, then it goes to the lungs so we can infuse some oxygen so we can increase the movement. Then it goes to small intestine. So when you wake up in the morning, you should urinate because you're getting liquid toxins out, and you should have a good bowel movement because you're taking out the trash. Your body just did maintenance all night long. But in order to do that, you need to be in bed and be in a good REM sleep by 11. So when people have sleep issues, I ask them, do you have trouble getting to sleep or staying asleep? Getting to sleep, then I do something to work on and nourish gallbladder. No, I can get to sleep fine, but I wake up at 2 o'clock every morning. Well, I know that that's liver. From 11 to 1 is gallbladder, from 1 to 3 is liver, and from 3 to 5 is lungs. So I always look to see what time is somebody waking up. What time are you waking up? And let's add in some aromatherapy and some herbal supplements that nourish that process that's happening at that time. That's your circadian rhythm. Frankincense And if you have these oils, I would encourage you to grab them and smell them as you're learning about them. This is how you build a relationship with your essential oils, by learning about them and smelling them at the same time, having that scent memory. Frankincense is a very powerful antidepressant. It's also anti-inflammatory. Remember what I said earlier is the root of all disease comes from inflammation in the gut. Mental issues, inflammation in the gut. It's a vulnerary, which means it's a wound healer, especially with deep wounds. And don't just think physical wounds, hey, I cut myself, but think about on an emotional level and a mental level. Sometimes people may tell you, man, that person hurt my feelings so bad it felt like they stabbed me in the back or it cut like a knife. Those are deep wounds. Some people have traumatic events that happened in their childhood that has wounded them. Frankincense is wonderful for that. It's also anti-allergenic. It's one of my favorite oils, my number one oil, really, for anybody going through any kind of allergies, whether it's pet allergies, nutritional allergies, environmental allergies, people allergies. So for somebody who has allergies, allergies stem from the gut not being healthy. You got to work on the gut. It's not ironic that it's anti-inflammatory, so working on the inflammation in the gut, to help really calm the allergic response, the irritant response that we're having. Frankincense also stimulates the limbic system of our brain. The limbic system is our smell system. It's what allows us to smell a scent and elicit a response. It nourishes our ability to understand. A lot of people use it for meditation because it quiets that mental chatter. If you have a lot of mental chatter going on, these thoughts, racing thoughts that you just can't get out of your mind, these repetitious thoughts, frankincense is one of the oils you want to smell. And you can smell it as a single, and you combine it with other oils such as red mandarin or orange. That would be nice, or lavender, to reduce that anxiety and nervous tension and nightmares and fear. It also helps to clear melancholy and morbidity. I want to share with you one of the blends that I formulated actually for Soul. It's called Balance, and it's a combination of lavender, frankincense, geranium, palmarosa, and Mei Chang. So we talked about, and I share this with you because some people just want to do blends. They don't want, it's too overwhelming, especially if you're starting to get all of these single oils and do something. So sometimes it's easier to get something that's already blended for you. Makes it easier as you're learning, but also for time. But lavender we talked about is a great harmonizer. It's perfect harmony, great for balance. We just talked about frankincense. Geranium is wonderful for the psyche. It's great for stress, for addictions, for anxiety, to calm anger. It has a specificity for the adrenal cortex, which really helps us understand its ability to relieve depression and nervous stuff and emotional weariness. It's just great to stabilize our mood. Palmarosa is another beautiful, rose-like scent. As geranium, it's a little different scented than geranium, but it softens a hard heart. And it does that because it infuses and inspires self-love. I think a lot of times mentally we're hard on ourselves, and physically and emotionally, and we really just need to give ourselves a big hug and to love ourselves so other people can love us and we can love others. But palmarosa is great to strengthen and stabilize and balance emotions. It also promotes the ability for us to adapt to movement and freedom. We can adapt, we can move freely, we don't feel held back. And Mei Chang is also great to help us adapt to different situations. It's known as the oil of tranquility, so very tranquil and calming and relaxing. It also has a theme of communication, so it enables us to communicate our emotions better, communicate on a mental level and on a physical level, articulate a little bit better. Myrrh is another oil that does that as well. And those both are, very nourishing to the thyroid and the adrenals. Because when the thyroid and adrenal gets off, our blood sugar balance gets off, our hormones may be thrown off. That's the whole glandular system. So all of these in this blend would be wonderful to nourish our glandular system. Hormone and mood balance, stress, fear, anger, enhance a good sleep, enhance our breathing. It's anti-allergenic. It's also antiviral, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. So you can take lavender and frankincense, or you can take a blend like Balance, and you can make up a spray. And you can call it a balance spray, a hormone spray, a thyroid spray, whatever you want to call it, an anti-inflammatory spray. Topically, you could do it if there's inflammation going on, swelling, pain, muscle joints, and aches. You can do it mentally and emotionally if you just need to be balanced. You need to be harmonized. You need to be stable in your thinking and your actions and reactions. So in a 2-ounce, I like to use liquid plant enzymes, because remember, enzymes and essential oils are like CPR for the cells, so why not give us that extra oomph? So I use liquid enzymes from Nature's Sunshine, and I mix that with my oils. And in this instance, in 2 ounces, I would put 20 to 22 drops of the Balance essential oil, or you could do, 10 drops lavender, 10 drops frankincense. Mix it in the enzymes. If you don't have that, you can do water. If you have some liquid silver, like the Silver Shield, you can throw a couple droppers of that in there too. And you just spray it. You can spray it on your stomach to knock out PMS cramps. You can put it on your neck if you've been sitting at the computer too long. You can spray it on your linens before you go to bed. You can spray it on your clothes. Spray it on your spouse or significant other. Everybody's balanced. The next oil I want to introduce you to is called Tanacetum annuum. Okay, it's a blue oil. It's in the blue tansy family. A lot of people refer to it as blue chamomile, but it's in the tansy family. And it's any of your blue oils, yarrow, blue cypress, blue chamomile, they're all anti-inflammatory. They bring a certain level of healing. You think of blue as healing, tranquil waters. Okay, so it's going to help the water system in our body. So if you sweat too much or not enough, you urinate too much or not enough, or you feel the urge to do that, there's a lot of water works, you just feel dehydrated all the time, or there's a swamp going on, this is going to be an oil to get you thinking on that level. It's known as the plant doctor. And research shows that inhaling this particular scent, it's got a sweetness to it, and an herby scent like a sweet herb, can shift an individual from describing images in a negative way to a positive way. So it can turn that frown upside down. It's wonderful for road rage, for anger, irritability, frustration, hysteria. It just infuses peace and patience. So maybe you already are a patient person, but you want to magnify that. You want to nourish that within you. You can still use it. There doesn't have to be something imbalanced or something wrong to use these oils. We want to use them in a positive way too. But it's also known as a caretaker. So if you are a caretaker or you're being taken care of, this would be a great choice for a restful sleep as well. For somebody who doesn't thrive under somebody else's shadow or in a highly competitive, environment. It's also a febrifuge, which means it reduces fever. Patchouli, I know what you're thinking, it's a love it or hate it oil. But the number one thing that comes to mind when I think of patchouli is let go. It helps somebody let go of the burdens that are consuming them, or something that's holding them back. If you can't let go of a grudge, you can't let go of a past hurt, there's something that's just owning you that's so chronic and you just can't let it go. That whole Frozen song of Let It Go. Patchouli, totally patchouli. It's also antifungal and anti-parasitic. So you think of that in an environment where people are leeching off of you and just sucking you dry and you're exhausted. That anti-parasitic, antifungal, it's going to help in that environment. It's also known as an antidepressant. It also helps with inflammation, and it is a febrifuge, so to take the heat out. You think of a fever, and the reason our fever is our friend. It's helping our body do what it needs to do. I mean, there's a reason we have a fever. We just need to give our body some tools to work out the irritant. But it creates this excess heat in the body, so we want to take that heat out. Our organ of heat is the liver, and heat rises. So when we have headaches, we know, okay, there's some heated thing going on. We need to work on the heat. Well, your essential oils can do that. Lemon, patchouli, blue chamomile, all of these can help with that. But also minerals. It's not just drinking water, but you need water with minerals to really nourish and to get everything moving. But patchouli is very grounding. It keeps your feet on the ground. Helps you connect with the earth. It's calming, calm, cool, collected, especially if you feel neglected. It promotes feeling of being safe and secure. Helps when you allow others to exceed your boundaries and take advantage of you. It helps you to set those boundaries and to work through that. Increases positivity, mood swings. And on a physical level, it's working on the digestion and the enzyme issues like malnourishment, the urinary system. So you think of the skin and the urinary system. The skin is your third kidney. So if toxins can't get through the colon, they're coming through respiratory. If they can't get through respiratory, they're coming out through the urinary system. And if they can't do that, they're going to start pouring out through the skin. So for somebody with skin concerns, we want to go back and make sure, okay, what fear is going on? Are we doing enough minerals? Are we doing some oils, some essential oils and aromatherapy to help the urinary system function as best as it can? So patchouli really helps with that. So there's a blend that I want to share with you called Calm. And so when I formulated this, blue chamomile came to mind because they wanted the label to be blue. It's in the blue category. And so blue chamomile is in this blend, as is petitgrain. And I put patchouli in here, and it was a tough decision because I know it's a love it or hate it. But I have to say, most people who do not like patchouli and they smell this blend, they love it. And then there's oak moss in here. So we talked about blue chamomile and we've talked about patchouli. Petitgrain actually comes from the bitter orange tree. And the bitter orange tree produces 3 essential oils. It produces bergamot from the fruit, petitgrain from the leaves, and neroli from the flowers. So it's pretty cool tree. But you hear bitter orange tree. We know it's going to help with bitterness. Orange, we already know, is high in vitamin C and flavonoids, so it's going to help with our immune system and help with strengthening our veins and the blood flow and lymphatic system in our body. It's also on an emotional and mental level, it's going to help with anger, panic, anxiety. It's a nervous system sedative, so if our nervous system is freaking out, it's going to help calm it down. Heart palpitations. People with addictions, these nerve spasms, withdrawals. And then oak moss is also equally grounding. It's antifungal, antiparasitic, but it's wonderful when you're trying to resolve past issues. It allows somebody to enjoy being in this present moment. It also helps somebody whenever they have trust issues or control issues, obsessive issues, addictions. So now you can see, wow, this blend is pretty powerful. So calming and soothing to the mind, the body. But it's also giving adrenal and thyroid support, anti-inflammatory, and anti-spasmodic. So think of spasms, so pain, when we have pain and spasms, muscle spasms, cramping. So a Calm My Mood spray. You can do 15 drops of this Calm blend. There's another blend I'm going to be introducing you to called Lift that has cinnamon and citrus in it. Or you can just do blue chamomile and patchouli, maybe throw in some lavender and frankincense. But 22 drops of your essential oil. Again, you can put it in the liquid plant enzymes or water if you're going to do a spray. You can mix it in some aloe vera gel or some oil if you're going to do a roll-on. or in some Epsom salt if you're going to do a bath, or a nice botanical herbal lotion base if you want to do a body lotion, if you want to do something to calm irritated skin. So this one's going to be very calming. Let's talk about lemongrass. Lemongrass is fun. Lemongrass has a citrus scent to it, but it's a plant. It's a grass. Antibacterial. It's a carminative, so it's going to help when there's gas and bloating. Antidepressant. It's going to be a circulatory, a lymphatic, and an immune stimulant, meaning it's going to like kick those in high gear to do its job better. And it's also an insecticide, so you could do it as an herbal insect repellent. But just think of insects that are around you all the time. Maybe there's people that bug you and pester you. This would be an oil that's going to help you respond in a healthier way to that situation. It's not going to get rid of that person unless you kick them away, but, it's going to help your reaction to that situation. Remember, we talked about managing your stress. It's also very powerful for the nervous system. Nerve pain, neurotransmitters being sent and transmitted and communicated. It also improves the nutrient uptake in our gut, which, remember, is important so the right amount of serotonin can make its way to the brain. It's also going to help with lactic acid buildup and congestion in our lymphatic system. Fatigue, jet lag, exhaustion, focus, memory, alertness, being able to pay attention. And it strengthens our connective tissue and immune weakness. Basil is another very powerful nervine. I do this a lot when we're regenerating some nerve issues, so think of like sciatica, nerve pain. But people that have emotional and mental wounds that paralyze them, that just really get under their last nerve, that just really make them freak out in a situation. They're not able to communicate. They jumble their words. They get so nervous. They panic. And sweet basil is also antiviral, antibacterial. It's an insecticide, anti-rheumatic, so it's going to help with arthritis type issues, spasms. It's great to stimulate appetite, improve digestion. And when we talk about stimulate appetite, I know a lot of people freak out, especially if they're like, oh, if I'm trying to lose weight, I don't want to do that. But it nourishes it in a good way that you're craving the good fats and the good foods. And it can kick away cravings for the sugar, and the carbs. So it's going to give you strength, especially if you're working through a fast. And it opens the mind to bring clarity in, especially if there's a loss of feeling. A lot of people on antidepressants, they feel numb. Some people have been through a traumatic event where they just feel numb. I just can't feel anything. I'm so exhausted and wiped out. I feel nothing. Basil is wonderful to help with that. And so the Clarify blend that I want to share has lemongrass and basil, but I've combined spearmint, so mint. Mint is also wonderful to help you take in new ideas, but it's good to help you be accurate and focused and alert. It's cooling and refreshing and invigorating. Rosemary, is one of the oils that has the highest amount of oxygen in it. So you think of CoQ10, puts oxygen in the blood, creates circulation. Your germs, your viruses, your diseases can't live in an oxygen-enriched environment. So here we have it. Fennel, I think a lot of people associate fennel with digestion. It's very good for digestive and mental health and gut health, but also eyesight. So blindness, and not just a physical blindness, but some people get blinded in a situation. They're so deep in a situation they just cannot see the bigger picture. Fennel is wonderful to help you do that. It promotes clearer thinking, especially if you're overthinking or overanalyzing something. It can just really give you some good courage to just see the bigger picture in that. And black pepper. Black pepper, great for mental clarity, and we already know it's good for digestion because we put it in our food, but it helps somebody endure on a healthy level life's challenges that are coming their way. It gives you endurance and stamina to endure the things that you need to endure so that when you are confronted with stress or a situation, you're able to handle and cope with that better. antiviral, antibacterial. It's an adaptogen, so helping your body deal with stress. So you can take 22 drops of this blend or any oils in this blend and mix it into a roll-on and just carry it with you. Apply it to your temples for brain clarity. Apply it to your neck as a perfume or to help with lymphatic decongestant. You can put it on your stomach for gut clarity if there's gas and bloating or cramping. It's very good for muscle aches and pains as well. And cinnamon, I had mentioned earlier, cinnamon is very powerful to stop the spread of infection. So it's very anti-infectious, anti-parasitic. It's a stimulant. It's warming. It's going to bring warmth in. So for somebody who's emotionally cold and fatigued and who's numb and just can't seem to get going or get motivated, cinnamon is wonderful for that. For people that feel oppressed and cut down or detained from reaching their fullest potential. And cinnamon is also like giving yourself a big hug. It's safe, it's secure, it's comforting, it's home-like. And it's also really good to manage blood sugar. And remember what I said earlier, whenever there's blood sugar issues, we know somebody's lost the sweetness in life. So this is good to inspire joy. Orange as well. The color orange particularly is good for creativity. So we know the essential oil is good for that as well. But it's, good to boost energy levels, to boost our mood, inspiration, to make us cheerful and radiant and positive and happy, because it's recharging and revitalizing our mind, our heart, our gut, our whole body, mind, and spirit. It's an antidepressant, antispasmodic, carminative, meaning it's dispelling the gas and congestion in our digestive system. And this lift blend, I've combined some cinnamon with some fruit. So there's cinnamon, orange, grapefruit, lime, and I've put Ravenstar in here. And so this is a very heavy-hitting combination for viral things. You think of, cold sores being in the herpes family, but also a lot of autoimmune, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, Epstein-Barr, IBS, cancers. All of these have a common denominator that there's some underlying virus going on. And we know from science that cinnamon, orange, grapefruit, and Ravenstar, even lime, are very powerful antivirals. But it's also nourishing for blood sugar and pancreas, which when that's balanced, we have less anxiety, our moods are more stable, we're less depressed, we have more energy, we feel safe and secure. Our adrenals are functioning at the best rate that they can. Our thyroid is getting some nourishment and support. So then we have less fear, less nightmares. And so if you want a mood-boosting little scent to carry with you, it's a cinnamon, a spicy fruit, a fruit and spice. Then you can mix about 10 to 15 drops of this particular blend, or just use cinnamon and orange into maybe some coconut oil and apply it to your pulse points. Maybe you do it when you wake up and before bed and before each meal, because that can help with cravings, it can help with blood sugar balance, and it can help with all of the mental and emotional imbalances that come along when our bodies are not functioning well. So I've given you some essential oils to put in your toolbox to help you, mind, body, spirit, and soul, just find that balance, and to maybe help enhance some positive qualities and to conquer maybe some ones that aren't so healthy. But I also want you to think about nourishing with your herbal supplements as well. Minerals, really important. Our father of minerals, Dr. Joel Wallach, has so much science out there on the power of minerals and what they do for our body. It supports every single body system. When there's heat and inflammation and something is trying to work right and it can't, the key to make them work are minerals. And so this particular mineral that I'm going to share is a combination. It has a chlorophyll blend, and we know chlorophyll is a purifier in the body, purifies the skin, the blood, the lymphatic system, but also our mood. It clears out the clutter. so that we can think better, our behavior is more balanced, our energy is lifted. The minerals in particular we need for heart, for kidneys, for our colon, all of our detoxifying organs, to take out the trash and let our bodies uptake the nutrients. Let the nutrients come in, get utilized, go to work for us, and take out all that stuff that shouldn't be there. But then to have some adaptogens in here. Okay, so now we have stuff to help clear out the stuff. We're giving all of this gas straight into the cell, these minerals to help everything work better, but we're also adding a component in to help our bodies manage stress better. Remember, you can't always make the stressful event go away, but you can control your reaction to that stressful event. And sometimes we need to lean on tools, whether it's aromatherapy and or herbs. And so adaptogens are natural antidepressants. You know, they're helping with the anxiety and the stress and the post-traumatic stress in our nervous system. So this particular mineral I love because it comes in a packet. You can open up a packet. You can take it with you anywhere. Just put it in some water. I drink at least one a day. If you ever get a headache or you get a hormone headache, or for women who have really bad periods, who are needing some extra minerals and extra iron, you know, nourishment so we don't feel so weak and fatigued, people with hemorrhoids, you know, varicose veins, anything related to the blood and the lymphatic system or any organ, you want to think minerals. Probiotics is something else that you want to have in your arsenal. And there is a ton of research on probiotics, a ton of scientific research. Most doctors prescribe it now, not that you need a prescription for it. But there's a lot of probiotics on the marketplace. The reason I like this one, and I've used a lot of different probiotics, especially, and there's something I will always do forever, especially knowing that my digestive system and intestinal system have been compromised and it's a weaker area for me. But this has 5 strains. You know, you want some good strains. Thermo-resistant strains means that it's shelf stable, so you don't have to put it in the fridge, but you could. But I like this because remember what we talked about. It's the gut and the brain connected. We don't want to work just on the brain or just on the gut. We want to work on the gut and the brain together. And so this one has a clarifying formula. It has bacopa, which is historically known, very popular for enhancing our learning ability, mental disorders, anxiety, depression. And then you've got some red reishi in there, which is an antioxidant, but it stimulates those brain neurons, which means it's going to enhance communication without clutter. And then there's a little bit of fiber in here, which we need. Fiber knows when to bulk you up and when to make you looser. And so fiber is one of the key catalysts to helping us absorb nutrients better and take out the trash, the things that shouldn't be there. Another category you should have in your arsenal is adaptogens. So adaptogens, you know, Dr. Oz talks about these all the time. So eleuthero, schizandra, ashwagandha, astragalus, huagulin, rhodiola, all of these are known adaptogens. They help your body adapt to whatever the situation is. They know when to rev you up and when to calm you down, all by themselves. You don't have to tell it. You don't have to give one for one thing and one for the other. It just automatically knows. But you think of fatigue, exhaustion, stress. We're not able to sleep so well, you know, but maybe we need a rejuvenating, you know, we need to be rejuvenated and invigorated. You know, we need our mood lifted, you know, but there's also stuff in here that's an antioxidant to help with blood sugar as well. And then St. John's wort is combined with these 6 adaptogens. St. John's wort is one of the most known antidepressants. Now, there is a disclaimer and a contraindication with St. John's wort. You don't want to take St. John's wort or anything with St. John's wort if you were on an antidepressant. You don't want to take them together. They're always contraindicated because antidepressants work on numbing the pain, and St. John's wort works on fixing that, on nourishing that. So they work in 2 different directions. So that is a contraindication. But it is a natural antidepressant. Nerve pain. You know, you think of IBS with all of the pain. You think of muscle pains, arthritis, fibromyalgia pains, things that are going to help with nerve and physical pain and emotional pain. The emotional pain and hurts that we've endured and that we're still working through. This blend works well for that. And then a couple other complementary things that I want you to know about so you can choose if they need to be in your toolbox or when they come into your toolbox. And that's something to nourish your nervous system. And so I particularly like the Renew. It's a newer product that has come out, but I have seen amazing results with it. I love it because I love the blend. I've done a lot of the herbs in the blend by themselves, so to have them all in one, it just makes it like a 3-in-1 for me. But yuzu fruit is going to be a fruit that you're going to hear a lot more about. It's a powerful antioxidant. It's soothing. It's historical for muscle recovery. So I do a lot of this with athletes, who get psyched out about performance. They have, performance anxiety, sports anxiety. But also you need muscle recovery. But you think of that on an emotional level too. Somebody who's endured something for a long time and we just really need something to help us recover. That's going to be the yuzu fruit. The marrow root is also known, to help with muscle recovery, but stamina, endurance. It's going to help with balancing some blood sugar in the body. The wood betony is another one that's a tonic, especially for the nervous system. Lemon balm I do when somebody's been under a chronic stress or a chronic situation and they need some quick nourishing. But it's also a very powerful antiviral. And motherwort. You see the word mother in there, and mothers are, typically known as and are associated to be with nurturing. And then you have other adaptogens in there. So it's a very well-rounded nervous system tonic. So you want to find something to support the nervous system. Essential fatty acids. So you've got fish oil, you've got plant-sourced. I particularly like this omega, the Solmegas from Sol Natural, because it has omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, and a fat emulsifier. As a person that has had Crohn's and colitis, and I have trouble breaking down fats, and people without a gallbladder that have trouble breaking down fats, I need a fat emulsifier to help me break that out so I can get the fullest potency of that driven into the cell so that my nerves are healthy, my skin is healthy, my hair, all my body can function better. My brain and my gut can communicate better. And so this one, flax, chia, black currant, has your GLA. Sea buckthorn is your omega-7. And then we have lecithin from sunflowers in here. So completely vegetable source, a completely vegan source for your omegas. But you also have fish oil too if you're needing a good omega. And enzymes. Enzymes, remember, help, CPR for the cells. But they also enhance our ability to absorb, assimilate, and utilize our food and our nutrients better. And so this particular enzyme, the Verdezymes, is like a 3-in-1 for me. It has digestive enzymes. It also has a protease blend, which work when there's yeast and candida issues and parasites and, protein structures in there. And then there's an herbal combination in here, some passion flower and some other things that nourish our body, so that we do have some intestinal support. Our digestive system works better. The detoxifying, portions, they do work better for us. There's marshmallow root, peppermint, things like that in here. So some other tools that you have: nervous system, essential fatty acids, and some enzymes. So we've gone over quite a bit of information for you, that some great tools. And I always say, don't try to remember everything. Just take what you need for where you are in your life right now. That's going to bring you some emotional and some balance, health. You just want to have some solutions. So the things that I do, my solutions are I do my herbs, I do my aromatherapy. I'm making sure I'm staying hydrated with water and minerals. I have some aromatherapy and herbs that help me with stress management, but I'm also doing some lifestyle things that help me manage my stress and that allow me to get a good night's sleep at nighttime. If you can find something in one of these areas that you can integrate into your daily routine, this is where you're going to start seeing those results, that you're going to have mental clarity, that you're going to feel that you can conquer things, that you can accomplish and achieve whatever goals you set. So if you want to get started with anything, maybe you have some stuff in your arsenal and you just want to take some notes and be able to use what you have, that's wonderful. If you're getting involved with aromatherapy and herbs and you're needing some help and you want to get started with some good herbs and some good aromatherapy, then you can go to soulsense.com. That's my website. Or if somebody has invited you to join in and learn with us tonight, then get back with that person and have them help you customize a program and a regimen that's going to work specifically to you. If you do choose to go get some of the Soul products, it's a free membership. You're getting discounted prices. They do continuing education too, if that's something that you're into. You love to learn. They're giving you some support. We have a fun Facebook page where we share stories and testimonies. It's just like a big family, and we get a lot of help there and we get a lot of support there. And then for those of you that, love to, hey, I need some stuff, but, is there a way I can earn my stuff for free? There is a share and earn program that they have, whether you're doing it for personal or if you needed something as a fundraiser. So you can talk to me afterwards. You can email me or get in touch with me, and we can talk more about that. But I love Soul because they give you rewards for investing in your health. How cool is that? So when you choose stuff, and you're getting these high quality, potent, pure products, they're going to give you up to 20% of that back so you can continue that forward. So they give you these product rewards that you can go and use them every time you order, so you're able to continue your health journey. And then if you are one of those people that are like, hey, I just need it sent to my door every month, and there's a way you can do that, and they actually give you extra credit for doing that. So I wanted just to share with you how simple and easy it is. If you was to do a program to support your mood, physical, mental, emotional, and you wanted the core basics, you wanted some minerals, a probiotic, some adaptogens, and your aromatherapy pack. If you were to get all of those, it comes to like 100 and little less than 163. If you're ordering products for the first time, as a thank you for doing that and trying the products, I have a $25 gift card for you. And you're going to still earn product rewards on that. So how cool is that? So to get started with something like that, it runs less than $140, under $150. You can have what you need and you can start feeling better. And then once you achieve the results that you're looking for, then you just go into a maintenance mode. There's times when I need to bump up a lot of things to get me out of crisis mode, and then there's times when I just maintain. So sometimes the things that I get last me a month, sometimes it's 2 months. And Soul also has a wonderful foundation called the Heart and Soul Foundation. So you know that every time you use one of their products, a portion of that goes to this foundation that helps women and children that have physical and emotional health issues. And eventually they will have a soul center where they will do, life-changing and critical research, but also have a center that people can go and get well. So thank you so much for investing time into learning about tools, aromatherapy, and herbs and lifestyle things that can enhance your mental health and your wellness overall. If you need to get in touch with me, my email is jh@gensense.com. You can email me, which I like best. You can also call me at 352-243-9627. And then my website is gensense.com. And then if you were interested in getting started and using some of these products from Soul and the essential oil blends that I formulated for them, you can just go to soulsense.com or get back with that person that invited you. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, I'll open it up for questions.